A listener, Tanja, joins us now, a resident of Somerset West. Tanja, good afternoon.
Hello, John.
Well, I'm very impressed at the way that you're following up on this and not taking no or no response as an answer. Let's go back to the incident which prompted you to copy me on an email that you sent to various people in the DA.
Yes, I copied you because I think this is a public interest matter. And I sent the email to essentially two ward councillors in Cape Town, both members of the DA and the Gordons Bay Police Station, SAPS. And it's about I was pulled off on Friday night, 9:15 or so. My husband and I were driving. We'd visited friends. We were heading back to Somerset West. And all of a sudden there was a person standing in the road flashing a light, literally. This wasn't a traditional roadblock with cones and narrowing of lanes and police beacon lights. This person was literally sort of waving us off the road with a flashlight just after the Harbour Island circle. And it was a bit of a traffic hazard. I mean, I had to dodge some trees and a lot of parked cars and lots of people standing around. And John, what essentially it was a security check. And it all happened so quickly, I really only computed afterwards. I pulled off, and before I'd even opened my car window, my license disc was read by a device, by a young woman. Another young woman came up to the window and said, "Could she see my driver's license?" And you know, one kind of automatically reacts in such situations, and I passed my driver's license. And she scanned it, and then the two of them shouted out to one another, and the third person in the background, and they called out my name. And then all of a sudden I realized, okay, you know, this is a check, a regular, you know, like those checks you get when you go into a security complex or something. And in all of this, I saw one police van, a SAPS van, but then lots and lots of people standing around and lots of cars standing around. And when it had happened, I noticed her T-shirt, and it was branded, labeled Afriforum. And I was completely gobsmacked. And I said, "Are you from Afriforum?" And I'm an Afrikaans-speaking person, and I was addressed in Afrikaans, and I spoke in Afrikaans. I said, "Are you from Afriforum?" And she said, "Yes, it's Neighborhood Watch." And I said, "But Afriforum, the political organization?" And so she said, "The legal organization." And okay, and then I drove off. You know, it was late, and we needed to get back to the dog at home and that sort of thing. And afterwards, I just became really very aggrieved, because this is not okay. It's a political organization. They have ideological views. They're busy lobbying in the States for things that are detrimental to the country as a whole. You know, the fact that the Americans are not attending the G20. And then I started wondering, is this even legal, you know, in terms of the Poppy Act? And anyway, and the more I started thinking and digging about this, the more aggrieved I became.
Can I interrupt here and say that one of the people that you wrote to, Councillor Sean Stacey, responded and said, "I take note of your concern. Afriforum is a valid member of the Gordons Bay CPF. As such, if their roadblock was correctly registered with Gordons Bay SAPS and followed the correct procedures to alert SAPS and followed correct procedures within the roadblock, then they were within their mandate. And if that is the case, then the fact that you think as little of Afriforum as I do is not particularly relevant. But further digging that you've done suggests that maybe Councillor Stacey might be wrong, that Afriforum does not have the right to do what was done to you, and I presume others.
Exactly. And I'm a little bit with, you know, like a dog with a bone here or something. And because I then followed up. And just to say, I am super impressed that Councillor Stacey got back to me so quickly. And make no mistake, Afriforum doing civic duty is fantastic. You know, they do beach cleanup. I saw that on their Facebook page. And I have no problem with visible policing and security checks. But I have a problem with political organizations doing that, and the Poppy Act thing bugs me. But anyway, the digging I did was that there's a Section 1367 of the SAPS Act says only SAPS members and Metro Police and provincial or local traffic officers may lawfully stop vehicles. And
it says here, demand licenses or driver's licenses, conduct searches
correct.
or roadblocks.
Yeah. And then also community policing forums and private groups have no authority to do that. Plus, they should be community organizations representing all of community. They should not be political organizations. And, John, if one just thinks about this, say this was Operation Dudula or some EFF or something, pulling over people and stopping and asking for this information. I mean, you'd be incredibly miffed, wouldn't you?
Well, I'd be miffed by Afriforum doing it as well. And
yes.
I would be less miffed by somebody who was identified as a community policing forum member rather than as a member of a political movement. Whether I agreed, I'd be as miffed if somebody from the DA pulled me over and said, I demand to see your driver's license. I would say, no, under what authority are you asking me to do that?
Exactly, and that's what I said in my original email. I have no problem whatsoever with a Gordons Bay neighborhood watch person pulling over and helping for community safety and all the sort of thing. No problem, because we all know SAPS is in a dwang. But, I'm uncomfortable. Afriforum and the lobbying they've been doing lately and all this nonsense about, Afrikaner persecution and human rights abuses, I'm sorry, I am offended. And plus, I think this is against the intention, if not the rule of the law of community police forums and other
listeners
legislation.
are now starting to weigh in, and Howard says neighbourhood watch members are not allowed to ask for your driver's license. Kelvin saying in Napier we were stopped, details taken down, one policeman standing around with them, whoever them are, this is not legal. Alice saying if the EFF or MK party did this, Afriforum would be up in arms. Have you had any contact with Afriforum about this?
No.
Okay.
And I haven't been in touch with them either. I didn't copy them on my original email.
And your investigation into what the Poppy Act says about what was done, and it seems
it's
hard to see how they can take down your details and enter it into some database over which they have control, into which you have no insight, and they're not infringing part of Poppy.
Exactly, and it makes me so uncomfortable because Afriforum is a very sophisticated organization. They've got membership lists and databases and all sorts of things. So, I don't know, the scanner, where does the data that went in there, where does that then go to? Where does it live, sort of thing. So I'm deeply uncomfortable about this, but it seems to be a clear infringement of Poppy because according to Poppy, any organization processing personal information must adhere to, it must be voluntary. I must consent to this. It must be minimal, must be for a clearly stated purpose. I was not entering private property. I was pulled off the road in unsafe circumstances, must be securely stored, etc., etc. So I am going to follow this up and make a complaint to the information regulator.
And because I am being copied on communication, anything else that you get from the DA, either we'll chat again or I'll just share the information with listeners. Thank you very much, Tanja, for bringing this to our attention. And folks, we'll keep on this and see what transpires.